Episode 11 starts with Yamori in his bed thinking about all the events that have happened so far, and that he knows nothing about vampires. They're pretty and rational despite the ridiculous things they say. They're like humans and they coexist with them, and tells himself that he has to go see Nazuna. After the intro, we see Nazuna panting, telling Ko that she can't wait any longer. She sucks his blood and tells him that she was close to losing it. This causes Ko to think about the guy from earlier, and he shoves her away. He tells her sorry, he didn't mean that, it's not that he doesn't, but Nazuna asks what happened. So he tells her about the vampire who lost control. She tells him that she assumes that he was just plain starving. He probably couldn't control his need to feed anymore. Ko asks if she would ever get like that. She was hungry today, wasn't she? She said she couldn't wait. Nazuna grabs his face and tells him to look at her. Don't bundle her together with that geezer. That's not something he needs to think about, and suggests they go for a walk. As they're walking, Nazuna tells him that she doesn't know much about it, but she's heard that vampires die if they don't drink blood for 10 years. In other words, they can go 10 years without drinking blood. She hears it happen sometimes. Vampires who refuse to accept what they've become and die without feeding. And asks, what's the deal with that detective person he talked about? He tells her he doesn't know, but he gets the sense that she doesn't like vampires. She knows that he wants to be one, and is trying to convince him otherwise. Nazuna stops and asks, so what, is he quitting? He tells her that he doesn't intend to, but to be honest, he's a little worried. That detective knew how to kill vampires, and she actually killed one. Nazuna asks if it's really possible for a human to kill a vampire. Ko tells her that he wouldn't want her to get killed because of him. Akira had a terrifying experience. He's sure Mahiru was scared too. He was scared. This was the first time he thought that vampires are scary. She laughs, calls him an idiot, and says, a bit late, huh? Ko says to himself that he's probably just worked up emotionally. That's why he felt scared of vampires after all this time. He apologizes to Nazuna for earlier, but he's okay now, and tells her that he wants her to suck his blood, so she does. Ko thinks that now that he's identified the fear within him, he can manage that emotion. Fear isn't actually that bad. Ko then meets up with Mahiru. Mahiru asks Ko why he wants to become a vampire. What he thinks of as fun? Does he really have to be a vampire to do it? What they saw at school the other day? That was a vampire, right? Ko tells him that that's a misunderstanding, or rather, a really unusual case. Mahiru says, but it was, wasn't it? It attacked Akira, and she could have been killed, right? Is that what he wants to be? But Ko isn't sure about that. He knows that they kind of drifted apart once they got in middle school, so when they ran into each other for the first time in a while, he was a little worried whether they'd be able to talk like they used to. But he was happy to realize that they're still friends, and asks what is it he wants to do by becoming a vampire. Ko begins to think about it, but Mahiru grabs him and asks if he's going to become a vampire and trick people to suck their blood, or is he not going to drink anyone's blood, lose control, and become like that thing. He doesn't have to decide right away, but he wants him to think about it, and what it means to become a vampire. Ko goes back to Nazuna. She asks what his friends say, but he just hugs her. She asks what's wrong. Can't hold in his raging passion anymore? He tells her sorry, just for a bit. We then hear Ko asking Nazuna, couldn't they have stayed at her place like always? She tells him, oh come on, just for tonight. He tells her that he doesn't think anyone is home, but hold on. We then see Ko telling Nazuna it's okay for her to come in. Nazuna begins to look around his room, then sits on his bed and asks, what about his parents? Are they working at this hour? He tells her that his mom is probably at work, and his dad hasn't lived here since the divorce, so don't worry. He thinks to himself that this is the first time he's had a girl in his room since he started middle school, and she just has to sit on his bed. She's then laid on his bed and tells him that it smells just like him. She gets up and asks if he's reconsidered. He met with his friend, didn't he? She doesn't have to suck his blood to tell that he's unsure. the vampire who never sucked blood, his friends, a detective who can kill vampires. It'd be weird if he wasn't unsure. And that a normal person wouldn't be unsure. They'd give up becoming a vampire in favor of their friends. Ko tells her that his friend asks why he wanted to become one. Why become a vampire? She says so. He thought about it, but it's because he likes the night. The night's free. It's like a whole different world, and people can be different there too. That's why he likes it. But lately, he started seeing that it's not all just fun. He was okay with that though. But she acknowledged all of his emotions. However, it's different if there's actual harm. It's one thing if it's just him, but if he would have hurt his friends, and when he thinks about it, he's had plenty of fun as it is right now. It's not like she's eager to make him her offspring anyway. Nazuna looks down and says, yeah. She then tells him to let her help him with his decision, and asks, why does he think the night felt so fun to him? He says, because there's freedom? He says that's true, but taking that further, it's because it's out of the ordinary. His ordinary is daytime and school. Nighttime is the opposite. She's sure it was exhilarating, but think about it. Right now, does he get equally as exhilarated or more compared to that first night he went out? Isn't the fun he feels part of the ordinary now? Anything out of the ordinary never lasts for long. Being a vampire is just boring. She's sorry she lied to him. It's been decades since she became a vampire, but she's never been anything but bored. She just waits for time to pass as she spends each shallow, meaningless day. And says that, well, thanks to that, she's a boss at video games now, though. Ko asks why. Why did she just show him the fun stuff? She tells him maybe because that's how she wanted it to be. And says, anyway, she's going to head home for now. He goes to stop her, but trips and pushes her on the bed. She starts to get closer to him, but instead whispers in his ear, what, did he think she was going to kiss him? She then licks his neck and disappears. After that, we see Ko meeting up with Anko. She tells him it's about time he called. He wants to talk about vampires, right? Ko asks why is she against him becoming a vampire. She tells him that's a weird question to ask, because vampires are evil from the human perspective, of course. She believes that humans causing misfortune for other humans is inevitable sometimes, depending on the time and situation. But she thinks it's unacceptable for a vampire to cause it. People live among other humans, you can't avoid conflict. But she can't allow misfortune that never should have existed, intended by something that isn't human. Vampires only ever make people unhappy. He saw an example of that. He says that's only because he didn't drink blood for 10 years. She says that's right, because he was an honorary human, who maintained his pride as a human being to the very end. Can he say for sure that when he becomes a vampire, that he'll be okay with drinking human blood, or else never drink any and live with the pain for 10 long years? Besides, considering he hasn't fallen in love yet despite the amount of contact he's had, she doubts he'll ever get to be a vampire. Has he ever considered that he might lack romantic urges to begin with? That would be a problem, wouldn't it? But that's good, actually. However, there's a problem. He knows about their existence, which means he's a liability for the vampires. Simultaneously, the vampire who invited along an anomaly like him, Nazuna Nanakusa, she doesn't think she'll be safe either. They might just murder the both of them, and tells him to make his decision now. He can live as a human, or become a vampire and get killed by her. Ko asks if she really has the ability to kill vampires. She tells him you saw right. She can't tell him how, but his fate depends on his answer. If it means he'll choose the proper life as a human, she'll do anything. She's prepared for that. He asks, what about the other vampires? She tells him not to worry, because she'll kill every single one of them. Ko backs away and says that he can't believe that all those people are evil. They fret over things like them, and they have something akin to respect for humans. He can't agree with her reasoning. She says that's fine. She didn't want to deny him his nocturnal roamings, but she'll have to take the easiest route. She calls the cops and reports Ko, and tells him that before he has to give up his beloved nighttime, she thinks he better hurry home. He takes off, and as he's running, he thinks that he didn't get to ask her anything. How she kills vampires, why the guy said her blood tasted awful, why they say his blood tastes good, or how much he knows about vampires. As he's running, a cop turns on his lights. We then see Ko hiding in the top of a slide, wondering what he should do. Should he go back to Nazuna's? No, that detective made it sound like a joke, but she obviously investigated him quite a bit. He doesn't want to cause trouble for Nazuna. Talking to himself, he says that he wants to talk to Nazuna about random stuff that doesn't matter. We then see Hatsuka find him, and the episode ends. Some personal thoughts. I really hope this anime gets another season, because we only have one episode left, and there's still so many things about the story that I want to find out. Obviously, something happened to Anko that makes it to where she hates vampires. I'm going to guess that someone in her family became one, and she had to deal with it. Or she's a half vampire, because that guy mentioned that her blood tastes bad. Another great episode. I'm looking forward to next week, but that's about it. So yeah.